All right, greetings from the Dark Continent. Conscious Caracal here, or Adams van Sail, here to shine a light on what's going on here at the southern tip of Africa. And joining me here tonight to help me with that mission is Renaldo Gouws. I really doubt there's anyone out there in my audience that still does not recognize your face or your name. I think everyone that subscribes to my channel is very well aware of yours. Renaldo has been a recurring guest on this channel since the very beginning. I've also been a guest on his channel many times. So I think that if you're tuning in tonight, I don't really have to give a massive introduction on who Renaldo is, but he is pretty much one of the pioneer online political and cultural commentators. I remember Renaldo making YouTube videos back all the way. I mean, you can already say you've been making videos for decades. Not a lot of people
Literally
can say that. So, and we've had a previous conversation on a similar topic as we're going to be talking about tonight. Just after COVID, we talked about how the shift was already then about 5 or 4 years ago happening more to away from legacy media and more towards online media. And now in 2025, that shift is in full swing. And that's why I wanted to talk to you about what you've been seeing happening and how the mainstream media has been reacting to this shift. But before we get into that, welcome to the show, Renaldo. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Thanks for having me, and it's always lucky to be here on your channel. It feels like home. And yeah, you've also done phenomenally well, and well done for everything that you've been doing at AfriForum. You guys truly are movers and shakers and giving us a lot to talk about. So I'm very appreciative of that. But yeah, it's been a long journey. I have now, I think, been politically free for like 8 months. Very, very happy. Got a little bit of joy back in my life. When you're not constantly in that frame of mind of gathering the next vote or capturing the next person to vote for.
Or defending the party line at all costs, even at the cost of your own reputation.
So that is a very good point that you're raising, because a lot of people have asked me, am I not happy that I got pretty much kicked out of the DA before this went down? And my answer simply is yes. And what a lot of people won't actually probably believe is that I would have probably stepped down or have been fired if that video and that whole saga didn't happen. I would probably have left the DA in parliament to either go back to, local government, because I would not have been able to defend a lot of the things that the DA have allowed in the GNU. But hey, nobody will ever find out, I suppose, to see whether I would have done that, because they kicked me out before then, after 12 years of loyal service and fighting the good fight. Apparently, it wasn't good enough for them.
Yeah, well, refresh my memory real quick. Some of your biggest live streams during COVID, how many people were tuning in live during those family, quote unquote, family meeting, the most cringe title you can give to an address by the president? But how many people were tuning in live? I can't remember.
So on average, I think it was between 15 to 20,000. I think the first two was like 30 to 40,000. Yeah. It was absurd. It was numbers that I don't think I've ever
even
seen.
Celebrities in the United States, like major streamers, often don't get those types of views.
Yeah, no, I think that was just South Africa uniting in their distrust for the ANC government. So that was good. How's it, Baba Yaga, saying good evening? How? Yeah. Baba Yaga, by the way, go and follow that man on X. He is an absolute patriot, absolute hero. Be sure to go and follow him.
Yeah, but you remember back.
Over. You see, I'm doing your job now. My bad. My bad.
No, well, you do this. You've been doing this for a while, so it just comes as like your instinct starts taking over. But I mean, you remember during that time, the shift was starting to happen. People really started distrusting, and I want to put this little footnote out there first. I'm going to stop calling it the mainstream media, because mainstream media implies that it is supported and their views are shared by the majority of people out there. And that's simply not true. It's increasingly fringe. The type of views and ideas that are expressed by the quote unquote mainstream media are no longer the mainstream. It is representative of fringe ideas shared by only a tiny little bubble of people that are completely disconnected from the real world. So I don't really care what people replace it with. They can call it legacy media, they can call it regime allied media, government friendly media, you can call it what you want. I'm just going to stop calling it mainstream media, because I think that time's passed.
I think also mainstream media is very much influenced by what is current and what is the sort of ideological point of view of the majority, and then they try to go that way. But unfortunately, in South Africa, the problem that they have is they follow social media, which is
Mm,
not necessarily how the real majority of this country feel. The real majority in this country, I think, are all centrists. I think that they are people that can see a fault in right leaning and the fault in left leaning, and see good ideas on the right and good ideas on the left, and try and meet in the middle. Unfortunately, mainstream media, or lamestream media, as
that also
unfortunately,
works.
yeah, they have been influenced by, the journalists and the editors at the time, and whatever their political whims are. I mean, if we just compare when we were growing up, what you would see on TV or in the media, it was facts. It was two people were murdered by X on this day at this venue, and they gave you the news. Today, it's an opinion piece with a little bit of the news sprinkled on top
Mm.
just to make it relevant. And I
There's
mean,
so many
that is,
there's so many examples of how bad that has become. I mean, just off the top of my head, the infamous Adrian Basson, the editor of News 24, writing that Cyril Ramaphosa is majestic and we all need to follow him loyally without questioning or without critical thinking. Or even this year, I saw Stephen Grootes writing an opinion piece for Daily Maverick, calling Ramaphosa the president his leader of the year or his person of the year. I'm like, well, that already shows a bias. That how you're never going to criticize your person of the year.
yeah. I mean, five. Well, not. Let's be realistic. I mean, mainstream media has always look. They're never going to please everybody. You are going to write an article that is positive, and then some people will say, "Okay, you bias." So we get that to everybody watching. We're talking about blatant
Yeah.
biased behavior. Now, what you've seen time and time again lately is the editors of big organizations like News 24, which is Media 24. And we
Mm,
all know where Adrian Basson stands ideologically. Now, you should never have known that 10, 15, 20 years ago. The center
mm,
of attention was never the journalist or the editor or even the newsroom. The center of attention was the news. And that
mm,
has completely changed because, like I said, it's everything that's written these days. If you read it, even a breaking story, it'll be an opinion piece that is written with some news sprinkles on top of it. And it's just absurd. I mean, I don't know. I suppose it's desperation because we saw the the latest results for Media 24 and
mm,
specifically for News 24. They've lost what was it? I think over 100 million, wasn't it?
mm.
Close
Yeah.
to that amount of money that they've
Yeah.
lost in revenue. And I still believe firmly that mainstream media in South Africa exists first and foremost to turn a profit for their shareholders, and then secondly to report accurately on the news. Because if
Mm,
they don't turn a profit for their shareholders, then they won't exist. So
mm.
they have to put priorities in place, and their priority, unfortunately, is making a profit first and then reporting on the news.
Yeah, and talking about profits, I mean, the worst type of business model you can employ is to actively antagonize and demonize a large portion of your reader base, calling them
Mhm.
idiots and Neanderthals and just unenlightened. And they need to follow and listen to you so that you can enlighten them to tell them how they should think. I think
Mhm.
that's one of the biggest contrasts I see with the online media or the alternative media and the legacy or government friendly media. And that's the fact that, and this is generalizing, there's a lot of flaws with independent media as well. But the big difference that I see is that independent media or alternative media trusts their audience to make up their own mind.
Yeah.
Overall, in general, don't tell their audience how to think. They pretty much say, here are the facts and you can make up your own mind. And you can disagree with me vehemently. I'm not going to tell you just you came to the wrong conclusion. Well, maybe you did come to the right conclusion and I'm wrong, and I'm open to being convinced otherwise. But that's not the approach that the quote unquote mainstream media take. They take the very blatant approach of here's how you should think and here's the lens through which you should see these events unfolding.
And added to that, it is the fact that independent media It's usually maybe one individual or two or three people doing something together, and at the end of the day, their reputation is on the line. So whereas when you deal with a mainstream media outlet, they've got lawyers, they've got everybody that is on standby. If somebody messes up, then they've got recourse and they've got a way to protect themselves. Independent media does not have that privilege. If I bring out a video and it's factually not correct, my reputation firstly is gone, and secondly, I can be taken to court. Because think about it, if News 24 or Daily Maverick or whomever else. The only reason I'm referencing News 24 so much is because they're the biggest in South
Mm.
Africa. So this is not me bullying News 24. It's
They've
just
also, I
me
think, in 2025 are the media company that have had the most high profile just blunders and mistakes and just
over
most
and over and over
and
again.
ironically the biggest spreaders of misinformation.
But yet they trust their misinformation news desk, right? I mean, at least
Yeah.
they called it right, because it is
I was talking to Joe
disinformation.
Emilio
And
the other day about that. I told him, I think it was off air. I don't know if I told him this on air, but I told him that's such a strange name to call your like fact checking entity a misinformation desk. That's like calling your fact checking division like the propaganda division.
yeah.
Maybe it's like a little Freudian slip.
It is. I mean, obviously, if you also look at the quality of journalists, some people, I don't want to go too deep into it, but I mean, some people will go way above the line to get a story in hotel
Mm,
rooms,
mm,
and then the irony is the people with a lot of skeletons in their closets and weird things in their mouths are the ones that are so critical of other people and spread
yeah,
mis and disinformation about them. But the point that I was just making is
mm,
mainstream media has got a lot more backing, in the sense
mm,
of, if they get something wrong, then what is the recourse? Well, a recourse for a citizen is to go to the press ombudsman. Takes 3 to 4 months. By that time, the reputation has been damaged. People have forgotten about it. So by the time, if you get an apology, people are like, "Oh yeah, that happened," and not everybody sees it. Whereas if independent media, if I'm wrong, firstly, that mainstream media is going to come after me because they see us as an enemy. I don't
mm.
know why exactly. I mean, I don't know why we can't coexist, but
Well, they
apparently
see
for
you as a
mainstream,
threat because they see their business dying and they see your business thriving and they see people, they want to have a monopoly on truth and you're breaking that monopoly.
it's absurd. It reminds me so much of YouTube, I think 10 years ago, where South
Mm.
Africans were fighting amongst each other to be the top South African content creator. And it's like, okay, but why can't we have 20 content creators that are all on the same amount of subscribers, or close
Mm.
to one another? But yeah, this
Mm.
mentality of, you cannot do what we do because you're not a journalist and you
You don't have
didn't
a
go.
journalism degree.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair though, I mean, you can go to the toilet, do your thing, wipe yourself, and then frame that piece of
Mm.
toilet paper, and that would be pretty
Yeah.
much the same
You
value.
don't need a journalism degree to write a news story title. Here are the top 10 things South African X is angry about today.
Yeah, yeah,
But that's what they do.
exactly. I mean, that is just gossip.
Yeah.
Like, we don't look.
Or,
There
yeah.
are some times where I've seen an article pop up, and I'm like, wow, this is truly amazing journalism. And
Mm.
we've seen that
Yeah.
on with News 24. I mean, they've produced one or two great
Mm.
articles. And then Daily Maverick used to be amazing. Everything that
Yeah.
came out of Daily Maverick was like, they put the time in, they put the effort in, they've researched, they've done everything. But these days, you can see the fact that there's so much more alternatives to mainstream media, that they are getting very desperate. And you can see that in the quality of the stuff that
Yeah,
they
they're
are
coming
reporting.
becoming sensational, and I mean that
They are.
now News 24 at their misinformation desk, they've been reduced to doing stories like the a Twitter boss manhunt and the Jan Braai Boerewors conspiracy.
Yeah, because that is really what South Africans need to know, when in a country with 84 murders a day,
Mm.
trillions lost to corruption, a violent sexual crime every few seconds. That is what is important. Because
Yeah, whether
racism
Jan Braai
sells.
gave someone a Boerewors role or not.
I mean, you see, and then the thing is, if you and I get something wrong, we apologize. and we will admit that we made a mistake. But let's use Jan Braai as an example. So they ran this story, completely ruined his reputation, or at least to those that read it and then didn't know Jan Braai. I mean, their opinion is now negative of Jan Braai. And then eventually, when everybody called them out on social media, their comeback was, okay, well, we'll put a semi apology behind a paywall. Okay, great.
Pay
Thank
to
you.
read our apology.
Yeah. Let me add to that. So
Yeah.
I'll share it here. I'm not sure if you remember the opinion piece by Adrian Basson with regards to Donald Trump and why kill the boer, kill the farmer is not that big of a deal. And in there, he mentioned my name and said, you know, Elon Musk tweeted or retweeted this kill the boer thing with the EFF. And then in there, he says, but did you know that Renaldo Gouws, a former member of parliament, also said, kill the black people? And
Yeah.
I was like, I never said that. So I immediately launched a press ombudsman. I opened a case with the
Yeah.
press ombudsman. And here we are 3 months later, and it's still dragging along because News 24, in their counter arguments, are arguing semantics instead of just saying, okay, yeah, we got this wrong. Ronaldo, you never said that. You know, that's really how simple it should be. But it's just the absolute egotistical
Yeah.
behavior by the journalists and the editors. It's
Yeah.
absurd.
And they think they deserve a monopoly on truth, and that they can't. If they make mistakes, then it's because they were forced into it by some conspiracy of people. I mean, that's what I experienced with the Unbry story as well. I asked News 24. I just replied to one of the posts saying, will there be any consequences for the journalists that try to ruin a man's life based on social media gossip? And then the official News 24 account on X with millions of followers blocked me. Just for asking that innocent, genuine, legitimate
They can't
question.
admit when they're wrong, and you know that is such a character flaw that I can't look past. Like if we are human beings that evolve, our mindsets change. You know, we have opinions and views that gradually change to something else. That's part of this thing we call life.
What I
But
what I can guarantee is that if I made a high level mistake like that at AfriForum, I would be at the very least demoted, if not fired.
yeah, but I mean, it's because there's such a boys club in mainstream media. I mean, the irony, of course, is when they try to do the whole pod bros thing to discredit some of the content creators, myself, Ramon, and I believe it was Jeremy Nell at the time.
Yeah,
And then they came up with the term pod bros as like an insult. And then we
yeah,
just, we monetized it and we created t-shirts and called ourselves the pod
yeah.
bros, I mean, the left can't meme. And mainstream media definitely is very leftist. But now the thing is, I'm not sure if you've also noticed, we used to articles 100% being leftist from a leftist point of view.
Right.
Have you seen a article here and there creeping in that you've read and you're like, wait, what's going on here? This
Mm,
is a more of a centrist,
yeah.
even right-leaning opinion. So
I've
is the
seen that
media now
specifically.
catching up to all of this? And are
I've
they
seen that
changing?
specifically regarding Afrikaner. So especially with how News 24. I mean, Adrian Basson wrote an opinion piece a while back where he was writing about how, for the first time in ever that I've ever heard him make this admission, he's like, Afrikaners have done very bad things in the past, but they've also done very good things in the past and
I've
contributed to
read that
South
one.
Africa.
I
I'm
was
like,
like,
where did this come from? Why are you
yeah.
suddenly now like, oh, there's good and bad? We need to acknowledge the good as well. I'm like,
Suddenly,
you've
Adrian
been
Basson is
using
the
the
most
past.
Afrikaner
Yeah,
person.
no, but now they want to, because now they realize they've made a massive mistake with who they've demonized,
Yeah.
basically alienating their entire audience. I mean, yeah,
Mm.
wow, who would have guessed? If you tell your audience that they are inherently evil based on their identity, they were born evil because of their skin color or because of their culture or because of their language, they're going to stop reading or stop paying to read that type of garbage. That's what a revelation. I just wanted to also point to the fact that due to popular demand, I have reactivated super chats on my YouTube channel, because I said
Ooh.
the day that I can't keep up with all the chats, I will add super chats again, so that people actually get something for their super chats. And that day did come the other day, and it's becoming increasingly so that I have so many viewers that I can't read all of the super chats. So I have added that function back for those people that want to have their comment highlighted. But then also, Ronaldo, I wanted to point out, when it came to specifically the type of fact checks that we see. I mean, I made a documentary earlier this year called "Is Trump Right About South Africa?", going into the facts about all the claims that Trump made about South Africa regarding race laws and farm murders and kill the boer. And News 24 did a fact check on me, but the difference between my documentary and their fact check really says it all. And that's the fact that my documentary is free to view on YouTube for anyone to watch for free, and their fact check is behind a paywall. And the conclusion there, I think, is very clear about who cares more about the truth and who cares more about informing people. If your main priority is to inform people, to dispel myths, and to destroy misinformation, then you're going to put your fact check out there available for people to see, not just for a tiny little elite or small group of people. That's why my documentary is free to view, and you don't have to pay to view it. Because for me, and for AfriForum, the priority was that this information gets out, and that as many people as possible know the truth about South Africa. But it seems that the fact checkers don't really prioritize that so highly. Their priority is to make money.
I just don't give any credence to that type of mindset from them, because ultimately they hide news from people because they want people to pay for their content. When you and I create content, we create it for free. We might, for our members, post it earlier, but eventually everybody gets access to it. And then in turn, people either thank us by giving a super chat, or they become a member to this channel. I mean, ultimately, this is a job. I mean, you know how much effort goes into creating a video, to edit it and to upload it and to create a thumbnail and
And
to
how
talk about it.
consistent you have to be to actually make money.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm unapologetic with regards to, yes, people give super chats, people give super thanks. They are members to my channels, and that generates an income. But I mean, I think the fact that I've been on YouTube for, what is it? I mean, I think it's 17 years now. The first 10 years or first 11 years, I didn't make a cent from YouTube. And now that, yes, I mean, I'm earning a salary literally from this, I'm not going to be apologetic, because I tell people many times, you don't have to super chat, you don't have to become a member, but people do it because they care for the opinion that I have, the opinion that you have, and alternative media, and that's great. So
And
I
it's
mean,
it's all
whenever they
about
come with hiding it behind a paywall, yes, that is being disingenuous, because they're hiding the truth from people. You would think that the disinformation or misinformation, or whatever information desk they call it, you would think that that should be free, and that should be open to
yeah,
everybody at all times, at a bare minimum. I mean, if I have to
yeah.
look
Or
at
that
those
maybe
terrible
it's not
cartoons,
free for the first week or first 2 weeks, and then it becomes open for everyone.
just 48 hours. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know who their cartoonist is, but that guy has never had a punchline in his life. I think it's Carlos or somebody. I'm not sure what that guy's name is. If if I can watch that for free, and it's terrible, why can't you at least give me some quality and with your disinformation desk, and let us get some information, not always factual, but we can try,
But you know, the environment that we operate in, the alternative media, is an environment where your reputation as a valuable and a trustworthy source of information is the be all and end all. And that's
Mm,
a trust you build up over a very long time, a trust you build up over weeks and over months and over years for many people. And it's
mm,
something that can be destroyed, as you mentioned earlier, immediately if you are caught lying. So you have to double check, triple check. You have to make sure your information is watertight and bulletproof, because if you are caught in a lie, then your reputation is down the drain. And this is something that the legacy media doesn't understand. They think because they have the credentials as have their journalism degrees, and they've been established as a mainstream trustworthy news source, then now they can just ride that forever. No, in this Darwinian, almost like survival of the fittest situation when it comes to spreading the truth, if you are caught lying, that is devastating for your reputation. And I've seen very few people come back from it. I've seen people come back from it through heavy introspection and genuinely apologizing for getting a story wrong. But you don't get back from that through arrogance and saying, I did nothing wrong. It's not me that's wrong. It's you that's wrong.
And I would argue that that is why alternative media is so much more accurate than mainstream media,
Mm,
because your reputation's on the line. There's a threat of legal consequence if
mm,
you get something wrong, and specifically if it's about a person that you've got an opinion or fact from, and if you're wrong, they can sue you. They can
mm,
take you to court. Whereas with media, they can just refer you to the press ombudsman, or they've got an entire legal team that is on retainer. That
mm.
if you sue them, you know that for the next 6 to 8 months, you're going to be in court
Yeah.
and spend a million or more rand just to try and get to the truth. I mean, that
Mm,
is the whole thing with me and IOL. IOL completely broke I mean, the press ombudsman came out and they made, I think they had 4 breaches in their article on me. I think that must be a record, because soon after that, they left the press ombuds, or rather, they were kicked out of the press ombuds or council. And I mean, if I now want to go and clear my name by saying that they knew that the video was longer and they should have taken the whole video into context and share it with their readers, asking that apparently is asking just too much. And that
mm,
tells you the desperation, that they don't fear the consequences of being wrong. Whereas if you and I are wrong, firstly, our subscribers will notify us and tell us about that, and we will lose credibility. And then subsequent to that, you'll lose viewers and you'll lose subscribers,
mm.
pretty much.
Yeah, and I mean that's where that reputation as a source of good quality, trustworthy information comes in. I
Mm,
immediately I've seen so many YouTube channels die because they were caught in a lie. I mean, one of the big examples is that guy Liver King. He's not a South African, but I mean he was caught lying about being a trustworthy information on a source of information on health, and it just destroyed him. He's gone. Like his channel,
mm,
he's just gone off the radar. His entire life or his entire reputation fell apart, and it's because in this very competitive and very under the microscope environment, if you want to get an audience, you want to build an audience based on the trustworthy information, you better make sure that you are a trustworthy source of information. Because the day that you are caught, you can make mistakes, but if you're caught lying is not a mistake. Lying is actually making a factual error and knowing that you are wrong, but you're doing it to get some other type of objective. That's completely destructive for a YouTube channel. And that's how it should be. You shouldn't
mm,
be letting people off the hook that are spreading lies. There should be consequences for spreading lies, even if that consequence is simply the destruction of someone's reputation as a trustworthy person.
mm.
I just want to highlight here the first super chats have come in. Lowbrow is the first super chat of the new super chat era, where super chats are back. He says a biggie klein geld for Snorvas, a little bit of
Hey,
pocket money for
awesome.
grooming of my facial hair. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. John Jarvis also is number 2, just 4 minutes after, saying, keep up the good work. Thank you very much. And then some stranger, I don't know who this is,
Renaldo.
Renaldo Gouws says,
Yeah.
love your guest. Oh,
Well,
well, there
thank you,
you go.
Ronaldo. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah,
All right.
great.
Oh, thank you very much, everyone. As I said, you really don't have to give super chat just if you really want to, and especially if the chat is moving fast and you really want to get a comment highlighted. I will be using that money, I know, to buy a new a camera for my streams. I know a lot of people have been saying I need a clearer camera so they can count my pores on my skin. So I will be using that super chat money I'll be using for that camera.
Yeah, I keep
Ronaldo,
mine at 720p. I don't think people are ready for 4K Ronaldo, Then
I
everything
also wanted
clear and
to,
everything.
when you mentioned the fact that the podcast bros, that meme, I just remembered, or I just noticed, or it came back to me, the fact that, have you noticed a lot of people in the mainstream media, whether they be politicians or journalists, are now creating podcasts?
Yeah, and the one that
A
is
little
probably
bit
the
late,
most
but I mean,
cringeworthy one is definitely the DA, and I'll tell you
mm,
why. So the DA has now discovered podcasting. I gave them this idea in 2015 when I said, guys, the future is online. The future is not going door to door and knocking on people's doors and giving them pamphlets and telling them about the DA. The easiest access to somebody's mind is through the internet because most people that vote for you are online. And it's taken them 9 years, but finally they are here. And now they also doing the worst type of podcasting ever. A roundtable, pretty much like a Piers Morgan environment, which is the worst, where everybody gets
horrible
pretty much
format.
like 5 sentences in the whole podcast.
And you just
It's
speak in
painful.
sound bites.
Yeah, it's painful, and the fact also is that you would think that having a DA podcast, that already it's going to be quite very DA heavy. So,
Right.
an easy thing to do that would just to get more of a fun approach to it, where you can just unwind a little bit, and you don't have to feel like you're sitting there and you're telling people exactly what they want to hear. I mean, it's painful, and the great thing is people online, specifically people that watch our content, aren't scared to tell us if they
Mm,
feel that we are not being genuine. And we get called out very quickly on
right.
that. And that's what I appreciate because I think the level of education and just brain capacity and common sense of people that watch alternative media is so much higher than people that read mainstream media garbage.
Yeah. Back in my day, podcast bro was a slur.
Well, it was, and then we turned it around because
Yeah.
we were like, "Okay, we'll take it. We'll take
Now
it."
everyone wants to be a podcast bro. I
Exactly.
just want to read some comments here that I also thought were pretty nice. Sideliner opinion says, "Sorry, excuse me, I'm at an AfriForum meeting." Well, that's a good excuse to not tune in. Thank you very much for the comment to quickly let me know, Sideliner.
Yeah.
Dagbreker says, and this adds to what you were saying, Ronaldo. Dagbreker says, as long as you open the discussion when we question the claims you make, which is one of the principles of the long form videos, we still love our content creators. Yes, and I always tell
Mhm.
this, I repeat this ad infinitum on my channel. Don't just believe what I say, research what I say. If I say
Mm.
something that sounds strange to you, like, well, that can't be real, go look it up. I'm not going to tell you just do trust me. Whenever I make a claim, you can go check it out for yourself. And I encourage people to go do that for themselves. I'm not some truth paragon. I'm not some enlightened individual, and you're just unenlightened plebs, and I'm going to be delivering the truth to you. I make a lot of mistakes. I'm going to
Mm.
make factual mistakes. And if something smells like a mistake to you, you should point it out. What I can guarantee is I will never lie. I will never deliberately
Mm.
tell a falsehood, but I will make factual mistakes. That's just part of being human. Um, and Lowbrow says the point of modern mainstream media is to push an official narrative. Truth be damned, all media is accountable to their ownership. New media is owned by its subscribers. And then
Mm.
Debbie Mori gives the biggest super chat so far, 350 Rand. Thank you very much, Debbie.
Nice.
Really appreciate it. She says, supporting great content creators. Thank you for all you do. And then Berto also gives a 350 Rand super chat. Thank you very much, Berto. I really appreciate it. He says, good job, guys. Keep it up. Well, I will
Well, you're
definitely
definitely gonna get a 4K camera now.
for 4K conscious Paragle. That's definitely what I'm going to
4K
be getting.
conscious character.
Um,
Can I just say though to Berto and Debbie, especially
yeah,
Debbie, Debbie has been very fundamental in supporting local
mm,
content creators. Debbie Moray is an absolute superstar. And she's done phenomenal work. She always finds a way to go on to up and coming content creators streams and then just supporting them. And she's
yeah.
brilliant. And thank you, Debbie, for the great work that you're doing. And Bertu also, he appears on my live streams all the time. Bertu, thank you very much for the support. It's greatly
Mm.
appreciated.
Levamp says 4K Ronaldo win.
Whenever, that's when. If you do that, I mean, you can already see like some independent heads here. Do you really want to see 4K of this? I don't think so. Or 4K
People
of
want to
this.
count your beard hairs, Ronaldo.
Say again.
People want to count your beard hairs.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Right. But something else that I wanted to ask you, particularly as someone that has experienced, I think, in real time, the shift away from the quote unquote mainstream to the more to the alternative media. Have you experienced 2025 as being one of the as I did, one of the most catastrophic years in that shift? I mean, it seems like the many mainstream media outlets have just been burning their credibility and their trustworthiness this year to try and cover and do PR for the South African government, who is also just burning their goodwill and making so many mistakes. So they need a lot of people running cover for them. But it seems like the shift has accelerated in 2025, particularly with this whole diplomatic crisis between South Africa and the United States, because South Africans were interested in that story, but when they go to mainstream media, they're not getting a clear picture. They're getting a warped, like, pro-government lens on the issue, and they're like, we can clearly see that this is not the story. The best example is that meeting between Ramaphosa and Trump. Brilliant masterclass move by Donald Trump, saying, I'm going to make these meetings public so people can see what we're talking about. Because if that meeting was not public, all of those people, you would have been dependent for information on those people who told you the meeting went fantastic. It was an absolute masterclass, genius meeting from Ramaphosa. He dominated, destroyed Donald Trump, played chess while Donald Trump was playing checkers. Those opinion pieces and analyses were written before the meeting even started. They were going to declare that meeting a success even if Ramaphosa got up on stage and took off all his clothes and danced around naked in front of the cameras. They would have still said it was amazing success, very presidential. But we all could see with our eyes and listen with our ears the absolute train wreck that it was.
Absolutely. I think this year has just put mainstream media on blast. And in the South African context specifically, it's definitely with regards to the February when the executive order came out, because we all know that mainstream media in South Africa, most of them are very leftist, and they've got this hatred for Trump. And hatred is hatred is a very fair term, and you can see that by the way in which they reported initially on him becoming president, writing articles, what is going to happen in the next 4 years for the United States with Trump, they try to make it very negative. And then when the executive order came out, it was like, ooh, we've got a golden goose here that's going to lay an egg every day for the next 3 months, because we can just write negatively about Donald Trump and positively about Cyril. And then, Donald Trump played a masterclass and pretty much opened everything up, like you said. And then people could see for themselves and think for themselves. It was like, what light is the best disinfectant. And mainstream media, people started picking up on it when mainstream media negatively wrote about AfriForum and about Kali Kriel and people that went over there to go and tell the congressman and
about
the
the very
president.
bad things happening in South Africa.
Yeah, exactly. And they were fighting the white genocide narrative. They were fighting the farm murder narrative. They were fighting the corruption narrative and kill the boer narrative. You're always going to be on the wrong side of history if you are defending things that are morally wrong, like singing songs about killing people. And defending crime, defending criminality, defending corruption. And I think that's long overdue. I mean, like you said, we have been speaking about the lies that mainstream media has been feeding to the masses for a very long time. Initially, you could clearly see the difference. Remember, initially it was the SABC as the mouthpiece of the ANC, and then at that time, it was, thank you for News 24, Daily Maverick, and for all these other publications that at least giving us a different spin. Now
they're
it's
all
all
indistinguishable. You know what they're going to write. You know what they're going to say.
Exactly. And it just got to the point where it was so cringe when they were defending Cyril Ramaphosa and not talking nicely about the Afrikaner delegation. Let me say that. So we all saw what happened with the way in which they asked the question whether AfriForum and Kali Kriel are, going against the constitution of this country. Right. And what was the term they used? That they are verraaiers. What is the English term?
They're betraying the constitution. They're
and
traitors.
That they should be criminally prosecuted for that. I mean, come on. And they were behind those articles, and they were the ones that were pushing that out. So I think 2025 has been a glorious year to showcase exactly how biased and
Mm,
bought mainstream media is.
mm. Yeah. I mean, I knew that they were going to praise that Ramaphosa in that meeting with Trump even before the meeting even happened. Before
Mm.
whatever happens in that meeting, I knew the next day those opinion pieces were already locked and loaded. President Ramaphosa schools Donald Trump. It's almost like AI. You could have written the
Yeah.
opinion pieces. It was written in the stars what they're going to say. And when your analysis becomes that predictable, and it's as we've established, every one of these outlets saying exactly the same thing, then
Mm.
it becomes very suspicious. Then you're like, but where's the difference? Where's the dissenting view? I mean, I can understand if there's one or two people analyzing or doing opinion pieces or editorials about we think Ramaphosa did very well in that meeting, but then you'd expect there were going to be other people that say, no, I think it wasn't that good, I think he made a lot of mistakes, and here's some of the falsehoods that he spread. But none of his claims were fact checked. I mean,
Mm.
the claim, the fact that he didn't even know that one of the biggest farm murder protests in South Africa's history that happened under his watch as a president, the fact that he didn't even know about that wasn't even mentioned by the media. They
Yeah.
didn't even talk
Where,
about it.
where,
They all
where was that?
fixated
Where was
on
that?
one little detail, on one picture, a thumbnail of one article, that a thumbnail picture that's from the Congo for an article that's about South Africa. And they're like, oh, Donald Trump is pretending like what's happening in the Congo is happening in South Africa. Like, no, if you actually read the article, you'll see it's about South Africa and the Congo. The thumbnail is just the Congo. That doesn't mean if I put you on the thumbnail of this YouTube video, then people say, oh, you misled us. You said that this video was just going to be Ronaldo, but now it's you and Ronaldo in the video. Like, that's not it, it's
Let me,
such a
let me
petty and such a in Afrikaans it's just scallum. It's just you're sneaky with what you're doing. They have to know what they're doing.
It's that, but it's also like the own goals that they are scoring is just absolutely absurd. Let's use Peter de Toy as an example when he appeared on, I don't know on what show, but
Yeah,
I
on
mean,
cake
everybody here knows when he showed that graph, it became an instant meme, when he held that thing up and pointed towards it and
Where's
said,
this? Where did this information come from?
"Where's it
Where's this
from?"
graph
It's like,
from? This is misinformation.
well, it's from your own website, which you, by the way, tried to scrape and hide that
Yeah, yeah.
information from.
That graph is no longer available on their website. That's a
So let me
very
ask
interesting
let
development.
me ask you a question. What would
Yeah,
have happened to Arends van Sail if
mm,
you went on national TV and
yeah.
you put AfriForum in a negative light like that and you blatantly lied? You would
If
have
I
been
embarrassed AfriForum with a lie, I'm like, for example, I go on an interview and I claim that let's say, AfriForum has never said there are 1 million farm murders a year, and then people show me here's a press statement of you saying there's 1 million farm murders a year.
mm.
Yeah, if I made that type of mistake, I'm not going to be head of public relations anymore. I'm getting demoted back to either level 1 or I'm getting fired.
And what has happened to Peter?
Yeah, well, nothing. Yeah, they just keep getting away with lie after lie. Not even an apology being issued.
It's and that is what I think is people are realizing is that mainstream media, there's no consequences when they are wrong. There's
Mm,
no apologies from them. And even when they blatantly showcase that they honestly don't really know what they're talking about because that graph was their own graph that they posted. Well, it might not be their
mm.
own graph, but it's a graph that they shared on
Yeah,
News
it's a
24.
it's a graph that they legitimize. They put that
Yes.
graph in there as proof that we have fact checked this information and it is accurate.
And instead of apologizing, what they come back with is, oh, but the graph that Twatterboss used is different. The only difference is that instead of ending, I think, at 2020, they went
Yeah,
on to
it projects.
2024.
Yeah,
They
it's the
just
same
added the
information. It's
new
1 year
statistics.
longer. Yeah,
And
or 1 or 4 years longer. Yeah, but it's
so
the
can't
same information.
apologize. Well, like, what does this sound like? Never wrong, can't
Mm,
apologize, blatantly lies. I mean, this sounds like narcissistic behavior, right?
mm,
But yet, these are the people that we should trust with our news to
mm,
give us the news. And let's
mm,
also be honest, mainstream media has become pretty much useless since the existence of social media. Because
mm.
when last have you read an article from any of the main news outlets that you didn't see first on social media.
Mm.
The breaking news doesn't
Yeah.
happen on ENCA or on News 24 or Daily Maverick or any of the mainstream
Yeah.
media outlets.
They
It
get their
happens
news
on
from
X.
social media.
Exactly. That is what's happened. Times have changed where
Mm.
journalists now sit on X, sit on Facebook, sit on YouTube and wait for news to break so that they can then
Right.
report on what
Mm.
alternative media broke before them.
Yeah.
A great example also of this is exactly how they hide information. The
Mm.
Afrikaner delegation went overseas, went to the United States, and they found out via different sources from the White House that four points were raised
Mm. For
before
demands, yeah.
four demands before the United States will negotiate again with South Africa,
Mm.
and yet mainstream media is ignoring it. I saw very briefly, I think yesterday, that News 24 mentioned those 4 points. But
Yeah.
this was the first time in 2 weeks since that was mentioned that one media house has
Mm.
reported on it. And then
Yeah.
today, the breaking news that Mcebisi Jonas, his diplomatic visa was, I think, rejected in May
Mm.
already, and now all the pieces are starting to come together. Well, that happened because, firstly, of what he said about Donald Trump. And secondly, it's because they don't want to negotiate because they've got these four demands that
Mm.
mainstream media isn't telling South Africa about.
Mm.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and those four demands are legit. I mean, that's what I've been hearing and reading as well from very authoritative
Yes,
sources.
I mean, it goes as high as the Hudson, the a senior fellow at the Hudson
Yeah,
Institute that has
yeah,
said he every day speaks to people at the White House
mm,
and the MAGA movement, and they've
mm,
confirmed that those are real. I think
yeah,
that is legitimate enough to then report on it, especially
yeah,
also if it comes from, a political party in South Africa that has confirmed that this is what was said,
yeah.
but apparently not for mainstream media.
So the last super chat of the night is Baba Yaga, who says, "Get Ronaldo a glass. He's drinking out of a jam jar."
Listen,
Things are
this
tough after
this
Ronaldo was fired from the DA. Things are tough, bruh. Things are
this
tough.
So this glass jug is shaped like a can. A can. It's absolutely amazing, and I highly recommend that people go and buy this glass.
Mm.
It's drinking it out of a
Ronaldo.
can made of glass.
I know you're going live very imminently in about 10
Mm.
minutes, I think, on your own channel. That's why I'm not going to be keeping you any longer. I would just want to give you the opportunity for some concluding thoughts and then tell people what you're going to be chatting about on your channel after 7.
Well, thank you first and foremost for having me on here, and I should definitely get you on my channel again soon. And please send me a WhatsApp and tell me, Ronaldo, I want to come onto your show,
Mm,
because it's not that I don't want to have you on. It's just that I pretty much stream every day of the week now.
mm,
And you're more than welcome to come on. But thank you for having me on. And I just want to say, keep up the great work with your channel. And
mm,
to the people that's watching this, thanks for supporting alternative media. Thank you for
mm,
giving us a voice, because without you, there would be no need for us. And
mm,
ultimately, I think the reason that the alternative media space have grown to the point where it has is because people realize that they can't trust mainstream media enough,
mm,
or they can't trust them at all. And this is not because of us. I mean, yes, sometimes we make videos in which we say, mainstream media said this, but it's not truthful, because we're just trying to get the truth out there. But
mm,
the most damage that has been done to mainstream media has been done by themselves, and their credibility has been lost because of clear biases that they have demonstrated. So it's not so much that we have just done really well at campaigning to get more people to subscribe to us. It's because the majority of people are waking up to this narrative, and they're going, we actually just want to get back to the facts.
mm,
And that is pretty much what is on full display. And that is why channels are exploding, specifically political channels in South Africa.
mm,
And I just want to thank everybody for giving
mm,
us the opportunity to be the alternative voice, and for giving us the opportunity to give you the news as we see
mm,
it. Because, we criticize mainstream media for adding a bias, but it's because we expect more from mainstream media. We don't expect
mm,
journalists to be individuals with the opinions, and including their personal biases in it. Whereas with us, that is exactly what you're
mm,
going to get, and we are going to still tell you where we
mm.
got the information from. So
Yeah.
I'm just I'm here for all of it. I'm so happy that, you know, finally mainstream media can be held accountable, and you can also see that they are being influenced by what is happening in the alternative media spaces. That is why you got mainstream media that suddenly have podcasts, and you've got political parties that's got
Right.
podcasts, because
Mm.
they see that this is a formula that works. And I would highly recommend that people that want to give them an opportunity do so, but then quickly will fall back to alternative media, because
Mm.
at the end of the day, it's still mainstream media that's trying something new versus
Yeah.
the honest opinions that you get from
Yeah.
people like
Because
us.
it's not the format. That's what what the mainstream media and the political
Exactly.
parties don't understand. It's not the podcast format. That's just a tiny ingredient why
Yeah.
people rather watch the alternative media.
They want a
I can
soul. They
I
want to
can
see somebody with
right.
soul.
Right.
That's it.
Look at my camera. I'm not streaming even in 720, maybe 720 if I'm lucky. I mean, I'm a here of a little grainy camera, cheap microphone, but people tune in. They're not tuning in for the bells and whistles and for the polished look. They're tuning in for the trustworthy information and
The
information that
truth.
they,
That
yeah,
is
the
what they're
truth.
tuning in for. They're tuning in for the
Mm,
truth. Simple as
mm,
that. Because you have built up a reputation where people trust Adams Van Sale and Conscious Caracal. And I was
mm,
here when nobody knew who
mm,
Conscious Caracal was.
mhm,
Nobody knew who Conscious Caracal was. And I was like,
mhm,
I think it's time that you tell people, because it also gives you a little bit more credibility. And that's
mm,
exactly what you did. And I'm very, not saying I was the reason. I'm just
mm.
saying I knew you before people knew who you were.
Hmm. See, Erika says, I became an AfriForum member this week, rather late than ever. I'm amazed at the welcome pack, the app, emergency assists. Well, fantastic. Thank you very much,
Great
Erika,
news.
for the. That's what I also tell people on this channel, even though super chats are now on. If you want to make a real difference, rather become an AfriForum member. That makes a massive difference. So if you really
People can
want
do
to give
both.
us,
People
they can
in
do
the
both.
chat, Hoya super chat for Conscious Caracal. He's been doing great work for many, many years, and it started long before he joined AfriForum, by the way. AfriForum has just made him the best version of himself, but definitely support AfriForum, but also support local content creators like Conscious Caracal. And don't let him, I know that he's being sincere when he's saying don't give a super chat, but I'm asking you to support him and Hoya as many super chats as you can,
Thank you
please.
very much. Really appreciate it. I see Raina Fletch says, Ronaldo, please host Adams. This convo was way over too soon. Well, we're not going to be able to go on for much longer. Ronaldo is going live on his channel. Ronaldo, who are you going to be talking to? Let's see if we can. I'm going to be going away, but let's see if we can transplant this audience of about 148 directly over to your channel.
Yeah, so I've got a regular show on Tuesdays that started, I think, about 4 or 5 weeks ago with the Samus Sambit. He's a young, dynamic, massive, influential individual with the youth, and he's just himself, which is great.
Mm,
His race doesn't matter, but he is a young, dynamic black individual, and you know, it's great sometimes to just have a perspective that when you talk to somebody, you can go above political lines and you can just talk about ideologically what is
mm,
right and what is wrong. And that is exactly who Samus Sambit is. So you can catch him at 7 p.m. on my channel.
mm.
And I can guarantee you'll instantly become a fan of Samus Sambit.
Yeah. Quick elevator pitch. What topics are you going to be talking about, or is it completely unscripted?
It's unscripted because that's the best way. We talk about whatever is new. So I'm assuming that what we will probably talk about is Cyril's speech on Sunday, this commission, and then we'll also talk about Mcebisi Jonas's failure to be the special envoy to the United
Right.
States and how long Cyril has
Yeah.
lied to us
Yeah.
about sending people.
Yeah, we don't have time to dive into that, but that's also a complete, just shocking, baffling story about South Africa going through one of the largest diplomatic crises we've experienced post 1994,
Yeah.
and we haven't had a diplomat in Washington D.C. during this whole time. It breaks your brain. The only explanation that makes sense is that the ANC is deliberately sabotaging the US South Africa relations. But I'm sure you're going to be
40%.
covering that with your guest. You
40%.
also made a video on your channel about that earlier today, so people can go check that out. Just
Thank you.
lastly, here I see Daniel has given a super chat saying thank you guys. Bye, donkey Daniel, really appreciate it. And then Erika also gives a 35 rand super sticker saying well, thank you very much for
Well,
that.
let's see if this works over here. Yes, there we go. There's hearts for you
Nice.
guys.
All right. Ronaldo, I'm not going to be keeping you longer. Everyone here, there's a link to Ronaldo's channel in the description. Go live there if you're not tired yet of live entertainment here tonight. There's going to be a great show on his channel. I can guarantee it. So cheers, guys. Have a good one and God bless. Goodbye. Tot ziens.
Ciao, ciao.